for the last 2 decades. He was the director of IIT Delhi and also as Vice Chancellor of Barkatullah University Bhopal and as Vice Chancellor of Shobit University Meerut and Vice Chancellor of Amity University Jaipur and Vice Chancellor of Invertis University Bareilly. Thus we have a very well experienced, versatile scientist and education administrator. Professor Sirohi has received several national and international awards, including Padma Shri given by the Government of India. Let's give a big applause and invite him. Sir, Babu, call me. As you like.
You give me this also. Good day to all of you, and let me begin by thanking Dr. Narayan Rao for the invite, Dr. D.P. Singh and the Science Congress. It's a very difficult topic, you know. I am basically a physicist. I don't do research in education. So I would first like to say what my credentials are in order to give this talk. I had been with IIT Madras as assistant professor, as professor for almost 30 years. And IITs by perception are known to provide good education. They are not assessed, they are not accredited. My personal opinion is that IITs should also be accredited. I have given lectures at several universities outside the country, within the country, and I was chair professor for 3 years at the Central University, Tejpur. What I find that there is a disconnect between lab and theory, particularly at introductory physics level, and research scholars do not have access to sophisticated instruments. Their samples are run by technicians. They really do not know how the instrument functions. That is the state of affairs as I see today in most of the universities. Universities are understaffed. I know several state universities where number of faculty in the Department of Physics is only 6. Anyway, I made my talk very simple because since I don't do research, so I thought I would at least like to learn something. So I'm just trying to define what is education or what is quality education. And it did help me, although being in IIT, as I said, we always delivered quality education, but I learned something while preparing this thing. So these are the contents, which will flow. This definition of education is from the educationist Kellner. And as you can see, in its technical sense, education is the process by which society, through schools, colleges, universities, and other institutions, deliberately transmits its cultural heritage, which is its accumulated knowledge, values, and skills from one generation to another generation. There are some other definitions like we make a person which is fit for the society. But quality is a very elusive concept. It can have different meanings at different settings. But quality is something which is very fundamental for education. Now, what is science education and why we do it? Science education is the field concerned with sharing science content and processes with individuals not traditionally considered part of the scientific community. Through science education, students learn to define, refine, and solve problems. There are so many other things, but what is most important, science education is necessary for the world of work and economy. Everybody therefore goes through the science education. Now, what are the requisites for quality science education? I have put it under 7 heads. One of the most important is quality learner. Why the education in IIT is good? Because there is a proper mix of quality students and quality faculty. So one of the requirements, very important requirement, is that we should have quality learners, not simply attending classes. They should be engaged in learning. Then we should have quality learning environment, which means it should have physical facilities, classrooms, smart classrooms, laboratories, ICT infrastructure, library, and so on. Then the quality contents, which is intended and taught curriculum. And the quality processes, which includes teaching learning processes, assessment and evaluation processes, use of technologies. There are some other things, which really make the education or the teachers function a little better. And what are the quality outcomes? That is achievement in literacy, achievement in numeracy, solving problems, acquiring skills, acquiring interpersonal skills, being team members, and acquiring innovation and entrepreneurship skills. And the last is the governance. Governance should have been number 1 because none of these 6 points will function properly unless it is properly governed. Some of the central universities, they are functioning far better than many others. It's simply because of the governance and the governance structure put in place. And Tejpur University stood 5 underneath ranking. It's a central university. And I was part of this one. I know how the governance is being done there. So the governance is very, very important. Now, I would define research, define scientific research, define various types of research, and how do we qualify or provide quality to research. Research is systematic investigation, that is gathering and analysis of information designed to develop or contribute to generalizable knowledge, that is research. It is applicable to science and non-science subjects as well. Scientific research is the one where we make use of scientific methods and try to uncover the truth, how the nature functions, and so on. The research types, we have a pure and basic research, both experimental and theoretical, with no long-term benefits expected. We had a session just before this one on gravitational wave, and that I can put under this kind of research. Strategic basic research, again experimental and theoretical, acquiring knowledge, expectation of useful discoveries. Applied research, original work undertaken to acquire knowledge with special application in view. And then the developmental research, where we carry out research, use existing knowledge to produce new materials, devices, products, and so on to make life. What are the measures of scientific research? Technical reports, publications, research monographs, patents filed, patents granted, technology developed, innovations. There could be some more which I might have missed. And quality in scientific research. There are several ways actually to say whether a publication is of quality or not. One of them is peer review and standardized reporting. That is publication in high impact sector journals. Another one is bibliometric analysis, where H-index or I-10 index, like used in Google Scholar, can be taken as a basis. But most important, I found the principles of scientific inquiry and consensus of the subject scholars. That is the most important, where I feel there is a very little bias. Introduction of new technologies, introduction of disruptive technologies, innovation, and finally self-assessment involving internal and external parties, scientific and societal impact of research, quality of teaching and supervision of PhD scholars. So many ways one could really ascribe quality to the scientific research. Then I actually looked at the number of publications which are brought out by number of countries. This is taken from a report which was commissioned by DST. And as you can see, US has a constant number around 140,000. You please make a note, 140,000, which is steady almost from 2005 onwards. China is going almost linearly, and in India there have been an improvement. And the publications of India around 2010 are about 40,000 per year. Then I looked at another publication. This gives a little more details. It tells us the number of scientific researchers per 10,000 labor force for some select countries. And here if you notice, US has been shown with the number of publications continuously increasing from 2001 to 2013. Now I really do not know whether this slide is right or the one which I presented earlier, but as far as number of publications by India is concerned, that is right. So since India has only 4 researchers per 10,000 labor force, certainly we expect the number of publications to be less from India, and therefore I thought I should recalculate some of these numbers based on the number of researchers per 10,000, or finding the number of researchers, calculate the publications per researcher, calculate the publications per labor force, and so on. So I computed this table. Now if you look at column 5th, US is number 1, China is number 2, UK is number 3, India is number 4, and so on. But the moment we convert this publication per researcher, US no longer remains number 1. It goes to number 5. Italy becomes number 1, UK is number 2, India is number 3. But when we convert this number of publications per labor force. Then UK is number 1, US is number 2, and India is in fact last. I am not sure which data should be used and when, but in my opinion, publications per researcher would be a better indicator than publications, total publications by a country. This gives the education structure in the country. It's a massive structure. We have 753 universities, 40,760 colleges, total enrollment is 26.58 million. In engineering we have 4.3 million students, science we have 4.68 million students. The number of professors in the university is 33,000, in affiliated colleges 82,000. This gives some, but important thing is there are large number of private universities, 184, and most of these universities came into existence from year 2006 onward. We have 13 regulatory bodies which regulate different disciplines. I have been associated with University Grant Commission, All India Council of Technical Education, and recently I have done some assessment for National Assessment and Accreditation Council 9. So I thought I should discuss a little bit about how the NAC does assessment and accreditation. NAC has got 7 major criteria: curricular aspect, teaching, learning and evaluation, research consultancy and extension, infrastructure and learning resources, student support and progression, governance, leadership and management, innovation and best practice. And these 7 have been further subdivided into 32 sub-criteria. And if you go back where I have mentioned the requisites for quality education, you will find all of them are covered by NAC. So NAC has a system which covers, looks at all aspects of quality education. But I mentioned in the beginning, IIT should go for accreditation, but we have a faulty accreditation system. Last year, there was a ranking done, NIRF ranking. I took those universities and got the CGPA because they were assessed by NAC also. I got their CGPA from the EC meetings and tried to see if there is a correlation between the NAC assessment or NIRF ranking. And as you can see, I have fitted a best line. It does show some kind of trend that yes, the NIRF ranking and NAC, they do correlate but very, very poorly. Correlation coefficient R square is 0.16. So absolutely there is no correlation. I tried to plot this one on a radar plot, and you can see although the university ranking goes from 1 to 100, the CGPA of NAC oscillates around 3. So this indicates, there's some kind of fault in the system. I also wanted to look at some other way of looking at the quality of education. in 1964-66 Education Commission report, Kothari gave a formula for calculating the cost of education per student. Fortunately, NAC asked this number in the profile of the institution. And I got some of these data, not from the NAC. NAC I collected later. And as you can see, salary component for IIIT Delhi is 1.31, and for a college in Hyderabad is 0.19 lakhs. There is a vast variation, while for IITs it will be somewhere around 2 lakhs. So there is a large variation in the cost of education per student. Same thing is true for the total cost. There is a large variation. And I thought it should be related with the quality of education. Okay. So I went again to the EC reports of NAC and collected all this data. And again you can see there is absolutely no correlation. R square is 0.07. This is unit cost of education salary component versus NAC CGPA. Then this is the unit cost of education total. Again there is no correlation. So what is the problem? Conclusions of this study is that NIRF and NAC CGPA graphs show the correct trend, but these are not strongly correlated. My suggestion is that we should carry out this exercise with the NIRF grading for 2017, which will come in the month of March or so, and see whether this conclusion is supported. If it is supported, NAC or NIRF has to do some other exercise. Similarly, the unit cost of education, salary component versus NAC CGPA are not correlated. Total cost is not correlated. What do we do? How to improve the correlation? That is the basic thing. NAC parameters cover the entire gamut of activities of an education institution. They cover every aspect for the quality education. So what remains, one should examine the relative weightage of various components, whether they are right or they should be reassigned the weightages. I also found that the data supplied by the institutions was very faulty in many cases. So this data which we take from the SSR and so on should be verified. And similar exercise should be done for engineering colleges and art colleges. Summary. Okay. Shortage of teachers, lack of infrastructure, research quality, lack of direction, examination, privatization of education, student participation, disconnect between theory and laboratory, limited access to sophisticated instruments and so on. Okay, you can have this one. Recommendations. Current best practices should be retained. Disconnect between theory and lab to be removed. Math education to be strengthened. Individual brilliance should be sustained, and those marginalized cases, they should be given due care. As I say lastly, any mind is a terrible thing to waste. And finally, this I have taken from Chinese. If you tell me, I will listen. If you show me, I will see. If you let me experience, I will learn. And we don't let our student experience. Acknowledgement, and finally, thank you so much for your patience.
questions or comments? A couple of questions or comments we can take up. Yes, Mike. There. You should look after. Run, don't walk.
Atipanam sir, the first question is the correlation between the NAC and NIRF. The NIRF they released in 2016. When the best institutions not get the rank in NIRF, but they are having the very good placements on NAC accreditation and NBA. Those institutions not having the quality, even NBA and NAC, and they got the good rank in the throughout in India. Please justify this answer. NIRF and NAC. Those institutions having the universities and institutions having the maintain good quality.
Yeah.
But when see the NIRF rank, they place it somewhere else. Those institutions not mentioning the quality, they got the very good rank.
So
Because we can't believe in a NIRF rank that is properly the assessors or not.
that is what I am trying to say, that the NAC grading and NIRF are not correlated at all. That is what I have said. And I have also emphasized that NAC covers whole gamut of quality criteria. So the assessment by NAC is much better than NIRF, but I also suggested that the next NIRF ranking when it comes, we should try to again carry out this exercise. I agree with you that some of the universities which are not delivering quality education have a good ranking, NIRF ranking. This is what you are saying.
Yes. Another one is that one, and NAC people are not visiting the premises and they are giving the rank simply and data based on their computer.
That is a allegation, I would tell you, because in this kind of meeting, don't please make any allegations.
Not allegations, I am clarifications.
So you can talk to me, I can give you more information about it.
We'll have the next talk by Professor D.P. Singh, who just now arrived. Let's give a big applause to Professor D.P. Singh. Professor D.P. Singh is the Director of National Assessment and Accreditation Council, NAC. He has more than 30 years of rich professional experience in different aspects of educational planning and administration, institution building, teaching and training, research and development, international cooperation in various capacities in different prestigious institutions. He has served as Vice Chancellor of the famous Benares Hindu University, BHU, and also as Vice Chancellor of Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Vishwavidyalaya, Sagar, and Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya in Indore. Thus he is a great institution builder and education administrator. He passionately promotes the issues of relevance of education and the quality, employability, and creativity. He has been bestowed with several honors and prestigious awards such as Environmental Leadership Award, Environmentalist of the Decade Award, Bharat Jyoti Award, UP Ratna Award, Agra University Gaurav Shri Award, Raja Balwant Singh Shiksha Samman National Builder Award, and several others. Also, he is well known in the country as a great educationist and having passion to promote the quality of education and research in universities in this country. Thus, let's invite Professor D.P. Singh to present that.
Professor Rao, the General President of the Indian Science Congress Association, Honorable Professor V.S. Chauhan, who is on the dais, and today he is also one of the speakers, Professor R.S. Sirohi, the former director of IIT Delhi and Vice Chancellor of several universities. He has been, and all the distinguished delegates who are here in this session. On behalf of NAC, I take this opportunity to welcome you all in this session. Professor Sirohi has already presented an overview related to the quality of science education research and role of accreditation. I just want to present before you the current status of assessment and accreditation and what are the recent initiatives of NAC in relation to quality promotion and sustenance. After me, since Professor V.S. Chauhan would be speaking, and he is, besides the member of UGC, he is also currently the chairman of Executive Committee of NAC, so would also speak further about various aspects and dimensions related to quality of higher education in general and science education and research in particular. This is just for my young friends who are here about the genesis of NAC, which came into existence in 1994 on the recommendations of the National Policy on Education 1986 and its Program of Action in 1992. So it has now about 22 years of existence. It is an autonomous institution of the UGC, and the UGC chairman is the president of the General Council of the NAC. An eminent academician is the chairman of the EC, and currently, as I mentioned, Professor V.S. Chauhan is the chairman of the Executive Committee. As far as the institutional assessment model is concerned, the process is open, it is quite participative, and enabled to evolve a model of good institution on various criteria, key aspects, indicators, and parameters, which Professor Sirohi has also touched upon. It also involves stakeholders. Those institutions who have gone through the process of assessment and accreditation must have witnessed themselves that the team which comes to your institutions also interacts with all the stakeholders, including the students, parents, alumni, etc., etc. Besides the teachers, officers, and the vice chancellors and the officials of the universities and the institution. The validity of accreditation is 5 years, and now it is graded on 7-point scale. Then the submission of annual quality assurance cell and internal quality assurance cell and the submission of the annual quality assurance reports has now been made mandatory by the NAC. It has been widely accepted by the national and international agencies. These are some of the core values which include contributing to national development, fostering global competencies in value system, promoting the use of technology, quest for excellence. These are our tool contours, which includes criteria, which are 7 criteria, which are basically the various dimensions encompassing academic, administrative and management activities of the higher educational institutions. Then under these 7 criteria, we have 32 key aspects, which are basically the specific functional aspects within each key area. Then we have quality indicators, which are actually the actual tasks or operations carried out during the visit. These are the 7 criteria, a framework for assessment. Besides others, it also includes research, consultancy and extension. And under these, we have 32 key aspects and 196 key indicators. This is the criteria-wise differential weightages which we have given. You can very well see here that some of the weightages are different for different criteria, for the universities, for the autonomous colleges and for affiliated constituent colleges. As far as this, because this session is related to the promotion of science education and research, therefore, I would like to highlight this particular criteria, that is criteria 3, research, consultancy and extension, and in that you can see that the total weightage is of 250 for the universities, and under that we have the key aspects like promotion of research, resource mobilization for research, research facilities, research publications and awards, consultancy, extension activities and institutional social responsibility, and also collaborations pertaining to research. The weightage in colleges is lesser than the universities. Recently, you must be aware that NEC with effect from July 2016 have changed the grading system from the 4-point to the 7-point, and this is from A++ to C, and then D is actually not accredited category. And this is particularly to make institutions more distinctive, because as a feedback we were getting from the stakeholders was that many of the institutions come within the CGPA between the 3 to 4, and therefore everybody is getting A or B for that matter, and therefore when we have like this A++ and A+, so after this July 2016, only 4 or 5 institutions, colleges and universities or deemed to be universities, have been graded as A++, and that was the sole purpose, to make institutions' performance more distinctive in comparison to others. This is the status of NEC accreditation as on December 2016, very recent, and you can see that having all the cycles, which is first cycle, second cycle and third cycle, we have assessed and accredited more than 10,000 institutions by now. This is grade-wise breakup of institutions accredited in terms of percentage. You can see the universities and colleges. While universities, you can see that A grade is more, but in colleges it is only 19%, and the colleges B grade is more in comparison to universities. The C grade is very, very less, that is only 1% in the universities, and that is in 15%. And that is actually, I can say, is the sole purpose of the NAC to promote, to sustain, to enhance the quality of higher education institutions and to develop a quality culture on the campus in terms of its various activities, and therefore when the institution goes for second cycle or third cycle, it is expected that whatever lacunas were there, whatever weaknesses were there during the first cycle should not be there while being assessed during the second cycle, and they should not be there during the third cycle assessment. And it is reflected in the consecutive cycles of assessment and accreditation. Next. This is number-wise accreditation status of different universities, all categories of universities, central universities, state universities, private universities, deemed to be universities, then also institutions of national importance. So this total universities we have assessed and accredited by now is 297, including the institutions of national importance. Now, this is just to reflect on the comparison, what was, because you are aware that by the regulation, mandatory regulation of UGC in 2012, the NAC accreditation has been made mandatory for all the higher education institutions of the country. That means all categories of the colleges, all categories of the universities. Before 2012, that is pre-mandatory, and this number was about 6,653, but within 3 years, now we are near to 4,000 institutions which we have assessed, and it indicates about the pace of assessment and accreditation in the recent years, which is going up again in the coming years. This is again then the pace of assessment accreditation in the last 5 years, which you can see in the last year we have assessed 1,285, and during this current year up to March we set a target of 1,500, and we are going to achieve that by the end of the financial year. Next. These are few recent initiatives which I bring to your kind notice, that for the sake of transparency, for speeding up, and also to bring in objectivity in the whole process of assessment accreditation, which the NAC has taken these steps, and that includes also the increasing the collegium of assessors. We right now have about 2,000 of our trained assessors all over the country, but we have taken a conscious decision through our executive committee that we should involve the eminent educationists, the faculty members of institutions of national importance, IITs, IIMs, ISERs, AIMS, and NITs and other institutions, even then who are not trained, and they will get to know on-the-job training, through on-the-job training. Then we have also decreased the number of assessors per team, and also the number of days in terms of the duration. Our focus is now to use more and more the ICT, and therefore we are working on the end-to-end ICT solutions to get more data through ICT, and maybe after some time we will be more dependent on this. And we have also decided that after the second cycle or third cycle, in the subsequent cycles we can go for e-assessment. These are some steps which NAC has taken for the sake of transparency, that is public access to self-study reports. Also we have introduced videography of the whole visit, starting from the initial stage to the exit meeting. Then act as a philosophy, as a guiding force, we are changing ourselves, and that is that the NAC should act as a motivator, as a facilitator, as a catalyst, as a friend and philosopher for the higher education institutions for promotion of quality and for sustaining it. So these are few steps which we have taken, and that also includes strengthening of the internal quality assurance cells, and those cells should be functional. Each institution should update their minutes of the meeting quarterly on their website. They should mandatorily submit the annual quality assurance reports to the NAC. Otherwise, they will not be eligible for the subsequent cycles of accreditation. These are few themes which we have identified to incorporate and to make more focus on these, which includes the environment and sustainability, the inculcation of values and professional ethics, then also gender issues, issues related to differently abled and disability, and research and innovation, and also learner and skills focus in the whole process of assessment and accreditation. They will be inclusive in the current parameters. This I have mentioned about the end-to-end ICT solutions. Some of the processes are now ICT enabled. We are going more about this in the future. As far as international recognition and collaboration is concerned, I am happy to tell you that NAC is very well placed internationally, and international network of quality assurance agencies and regional networks and regional associations. It has been represented by our officers, and last year the chairperson of both the bodies of international and regional bodies was from NAC. Recently, we organized a global summit on quality higher education, sharing values and fostering trust beyond borders. I'm happy to tell you that we had 120 delegates, including 24 representatives of 20 countries who attended the summit, and they represented the various regions of the country, all the key players globally in the field of quality assurance. I can talk a little bit about the limitations and concerns. We know that, and you are also aware that we are handling a large diversity of institutions. Diversity within the university system, diversity within the colleges, affiliated colleges, granted colleges, private colleges, government colleges, universities, central universities, state universities, private universities, deemed to be universities, then conventional universities and the multi-faculty universities, single faculty universities, languages universities, music university, technology university, so and so forth. So it is a larger canvas and diversity, and therefore perhaps we have to revisit our tools and methodologies and make them some institutional specific in terms of its requirements. Then weaker institutions do not submit for assessment accreditation unless they are forced by the state governments because of the RUSA grants or other grants. So they need, I feel, some support from the state governments, because they should come up, then only the quality of, as a nation of higher education will get improved. Another thing is that linking of grades with grants shifted focus from process to outcomes. Now because of this, I feel, and this is the question which is at the policy level, that everything has been linked with the grade, and because that everybody aspires for the higher grade. And in that process, I think somewhere the quality culture which is required on the campus, or the total mindset of the governance of the institutions and the faculty members and all the stakeholders needs to be changed. And therefore I feel, and that is my individual thinking as an education, they should not be linked. Whatever the policy decision has to be taken at that level should be taken then and there from the very beginning. This should not be linked with the grades of the either NAC or any other ranking agency. Next. These are some steps which NAC is taking as far as moving forward is concerned. I mentioned about the assessment for third and subsequent cycles. Then also by strengthening of research and development that now we have started. We soon will have a unit, IT unit also, and a research development unit, and will have some major and minor projects. Now we are also going to add new staff in our family of NAC. Then we have a plan to start a journal on quality in higher education. Then some academic programs on quality assurance in collaboration with premier institutions, and also to promote international cooperation. Thank you very much. As I mentioned, after me, we have another very important speaker, and therefore what we will do, me and Professor Chauhan will respond because he is the chair of the executive committee of NAC, besides many other responsibilities which is having, including the chairman of the peer review committee of the 7th Pay Commission for all the government-funded institutions of higher education, which is a very important committee for all of us who are related to the teaching fraternity, including the vice chancellors, because everybody is looking towards Professor Chauhan Sahab, what recommendations he is going to submit, and what is going to be the fate of our teaching fraternity and all the people who are engaged in the higher education. And therefore we will take up all the questions after Professor Chauhan speaks, because he is also from NAC. So jointly we will respond to all the questions. So Professor Chauhan is currently also a member of UGC. He is a renowned scientist, have many prestigious awards with him, including the Civil Honor Padam Shri in 2012. Coincidentally, we have both the speakers Padam Shri. Professor Rajpal Sirohi ji is also Padam Shri, and Professor Virendra Chauhan is also Padam Shri. And Professor Chauhan taught chemistry in St. Stephen's College, in IIT Kanpur, and also in Delhi University. So with these words, I welcome Professor Chauhan Sahab in this session, and I request him to enlighten all of us through his scholarly address. Professor Chauhan, please.
Let's invite him with a big applause.
While we are being set up, I'll make one small promise. But before that, thank you very much for the introduction. With your permission, I'll start my talk. What I'm not going to talk about is NAC. That I can show you. You've seen enough NAC. I'm also actually looking at I'm on the executive committee of NIRF. So the questions that will come up both for NAC, and NAC is mandatory only from last year. So lots of questions that whenever we go, and I went to a lot of meetings with Vice Chancellor, Principal and so on. The question that you may have are pretty obvious questions. But just remember, the systems in India are a very nascent system. NIRF is only 1 year old. So I think it's a bit too early to either analyze or debate or even compare these systems. NAC has become mandatory only a year back.
So I would just say that if you have any questions, of course, we can discuss them. But remember that these are ongoing process. And just remember even the education system in India is really, really not that old. So when British left us at independence, you saw the data that you had just 20 universities and about 400 to 500 colleges and not more than 1.2 lakh students. Now take that through the time of very hardships, economic hardships the country went through. And today you have 847 universities, 50,000 colleges. Said I can throw a lot of numbers. You saw numbers in Dr. Sirohi's. So by any standards you want to look at higher education, you would see this an enormous expansion, much needed expansion. So we have roughly, the figure was 2.67 crores, which Professor actually figure is touching almost 3 crore students in higher education. Now imagine any system. Those of you who are scientists here, this is an explosive system. It's in sheer physics, you would say the thermodynamics of this, the entropy of this stuff is extremely high. In this, now we're beginning to have a narrative of the quality. So if you look at UGC mandate, UGC says access with equity and excellence. Excellence narrative is a recent one. The President of India would say, call all of us and say that none of our universities, including the IITs, are not in top 200, etc. So whenever we either question, I think there are two narratives running. Spectacular expansion, very large number of people, families which had never access to education are being educated, present company, you see a lot of students here. Versus suddenly we start to look at expansion. I'm going to touch about it, but I'm going to look at the problem of higher education in its totality. What are the challenges? Are these challenges specific to India or are these challenges world over? My contention is the university world over is under a huge amount of stress, and I'm going to very quickly build it. But what I would like to start with is, what is university or what is a higher education institution? Where does it come from? Was it there all the time? Or is it something which we are beginning to conceive, especially the quality in higher education? Is it more recent phenomenon? So what is the idea of university? Where does it come from? So I'll touch upon this. Very successful university, when we start comparing either time or QS or in Shanghai, not top 200, actually they all originate from the Western idea of university. And I'll come to that in a minute. I just want to say that there were universities 1,000-year-old. There were universities in India which are more than 1,500-year-old. Takshila, Nalanda. After that there is Bologna, Padua, Oxford, Cambridge, a whole lot of them. And then of course 300 years back across the Atlantic. But if you look at the time scale, this is a very recent phenomena. University per se as an idea was really as old as the first time defined by a man called Newman. John Newman, for the first time, he was a monk, an Irish monk who taught at Oxford, who studied at Oxford, gave series of lectures. Those lectures were published as a book by Longman in 1907. Actually it's 1807 is wrongly written, it's 1807. He simply said the university is a space where everybody comes from everywhere and stays in that space and learns from each other. There was no mention of research when Newman talked about it. This is Oxford almost at its peak. We are looking at Oxford last couple of 100 years. But even before Newman said what Newman said and became famous for publishing the book, it is actually this is von Humboldt, which he's a Persian philosopher who actually gave idea of university, and there were 3 pillars of this university. I'm just very quickly running through this because it's fundamentally important to understand where do we come from. So the 3 very important idea of university research was that for the first time Teaching and research is a fundamentally important to university. Freedom of thought as well as freedom to express as well as freedom to teach what you want to teach is completely university's business. And more than that, and this is the time when universities were governed paid by government, self-governance of university, and it's a crucial point in Indian context. The complete self-governance of the university was in university hands. So who university should hire, who university should fire, who should be the student at university, what research university should do was entirely left to the university. So this is the Western model. Or we all keep comparing ourselves what happening in America, what is happening in Germany, but all universities were based on these two ideas. So remarkably successful. They were fundamental agent for changes. These universities where most of the research was done. The amazing output of research because the ideas were free floating and they did whatever they wanted to do. They were totally flexible and adaptable in their approach. And government over the time, this is now we are moving into last 4 decades. The universities were doing their business, only 4 to 5% people access universities, no more. And I'm talking about 1960s. Till 1960, only 4 to 5% people accessed education. Middle classes in Europe rose. The number of middle classes was very, very large. And they started asking for, you don't have to look at the slide, university admission. University became a symbol of status both for men and women. Also it started becoming idea of job relationship. If you went to university, you got a job. If you didn't get to university, you found difficult to job. This began to happen in late 60s. In Bologna, and soon after, there's a huge conference in Bologna, and soon after the conference in Lisbon. The governments were still saying what I said to you earlier, the free thinking, research should be done for the research sake, etc. But the time has started changing now. I think government have already started saying that the research cannot be done for research sake. So what are the challenges? I come straight to the challenges to the university and when I say university, I really mean higher education, whether IIT or NITs or triple IITs or national, in Indian context, consider them all. In Indian context is extremely complex. You have private industry, you have deemed to be university, you have autonomous colleges. So I'll come to Indian scene in a minute. But consider this is happening in the best places in the world. It's happening in Germany, happening in Austria, happening in England. So till 60s, university education reached only 4 to 5%, middle classes rose, as I told you. Now this is a time when globalization starts happening. I'm still taking you towards the university in the West, very successful model. Government started looking at this as a crucial asset. I'm talking about now late 70s. Government suddenly realized these universities are very important. Otherwise, government had just given universities, they could do whatever they wanted to do. Sources of new knowledge, they were novel thinking, they begin to now bringing economic growth coming out as an engine, what is being done at the university. They were now suddenly, and I say suddenly in 70s, universities were supposed to provide skilled personnel in all areas. There's doctors, lawyers, business management people. This is happening when some of us have started going to university. They are agent for social. Not only you have to do research. So university were under tremendous pressure. They have to produce people to find jobs. They have to do research. They have to look at economic growth. So government, in some sense, started driving the agenda. We haven't realized. In fact, we today sit here where the funders or the funding agency really drive the agenda. And I don't say that in a negative way. I say it in exactly the way it is. So it will come in a minute. The economic pressures are huge, so they're supposed to do everything. So globalization, massification of education, everybody wants to go to university, and something which fundamentally changed education is the is the invention of internet, accessing ICTs, availability of click of a mouse you can get information about it. These three things have changed education, and I think entirely irreversibly. I don't think we'll ever go back to what universities were in 60s and 70s. But that doesn't mean it is a bad thing. It is just the way things are. So what is the challenges of university or higher education is university heavily were funded by public money. They are still heavily funded. And if you look at Indian scene, in India, universities are completely funded by the government. NAC is completely funded by government. NIRF is completely funded by government. So we are completely funded by government. But that said, and you may or may not be surprised, that 60% of all Indian education right now is in private hands. So when I say we are funded by government, the large number of central universities, this and that, we are only looking at 48%. And as we move, it is quite clear that this number might get even more accentuated. And I'll come to the funding part in a minute. Are there any direct benefit of university to examine? Should we examine this question? Should university worry about other economic benefit to the country? Research is something which I think in the context of the present meeting is very important. Research and teaching only in the area of national interest. And national, I don't mean Indian right now. I'm actually talking about completely the rest of the world. This is happening world over. So if you are funded by Gates Foundation or Wellcome Trust Foundation, the agenda is driven by Gates Foundation and Wellcome Trust Foundation and not by the university. So in a very silent mode, without realizing, whole lot of research and especially scientific research. And let me get this out of the way. When we are looking at NIRF or NAC or for that matter Times ranking or Shanghai ranking, 90% of this business of publication or research output is really scientific research. Other kinds of research as in social sciences, archaeology, history, political science, all that have taken a backstage. So when we talk about research, almost synonymous with scientific research. And scientific research is extremely expensive. And many times when we talk about quality, I think often this is forgotten. And when we say we are not in top 200 universities, we often forget that the scientific research is extremely expensive, infrastructure expensive, and what is almost always forgotten, the running of the infrastructure that we establish is even more important. So I'm running out of time, so I'm going to take it very quickly. This is what I said. The research is absolutely fundamentally crucial to the university or higher education system. Suitable settings are for basic research, and if you were here for the Nobel Prize lecture day before yesterday, on quantum physics, the point came out very clear. The most spectacular benefit that you see of scientific research really comes from basic research. They do not come from applied research. They're far, to my mind, in my narrative, far too much emphasis on directed research. The research should go this way, that way. Actual benefit, internet came from basic research, lasers came from basic research, vaccines have come from basic research, the whole amount of things have. Another thing which keeps coming, and I saw in the first speaker's slide also, universities are asked to innovate. I think this is personal, this is my personal opinion, I think a lot of people will disagree with me. Innovation is something very misguided at the university. You can say we should have innovative way of teaching, innovative research or doing this or whatever, but innovation really is not university job. It's a myth that university produces a whole lot of research which cannot be exploited. The European Union famously had a meeting in 2001 and said education, research and innovation are 3 points of a triangle. I think it is highly overstated. What university can do, or what higher education institution can do and actually do very well, including in India, is to produce people who can innovate. Innovation space is outside the university space. It needs industry, it needs trials, it needs commitment, needs production, it needs testing. So I personally think innovation business has to be dealt with slightly seriously. University higher education can create human, they always have done so. Our IAS officers, bureaucracy, people in education, people in medicine, they all have come from university. They should continue to come from. But university can't become the production houses of a pharma company or so on. I think one example which is Stanford and Silicon Valley sometimes runs ahead of its narrative, and I think we have to be very cautious. So this is something which is very close to my heart, but I think I'll just run through. Often I feel personally, I'm a scientist by training, I've done science research, but I think lot of emphasis on science and technology finding all solution of society is a misplaced notion. Science does spectacular stuff. There's no question about it. But humanities, social sciences, fine arts are a fundamentally important, the research in them is important. Even to accept science, and we are struggling in this country, and this is the right time to mention, we struggle in this country. There's a huge amount of good science available, but acceptance of science, whether it is GMOs, whether it's vaccination, whether it is cervical cancer vaccine acceptance, etc., etc. You need people who understand people. You need people who can debate with people to put across an idea, and I think this is a great challenge to university. We mustn't just run away with the narrative of science and technology. So I would also raise the question, what is education for, therefore? So we have challenges in education, we challenge research, teaching, quality, etc. But what is education for? And I think we should ponder for a minute. This is really to be able to learn, to be able to think, and to be able to develop analytical. If you've done all these three, then I think your education at whether it's IIT or triple IIT, of course you'll get skill. Getting skills of opening a computer or whatever, you can always get those skills. I've heard in this country many, many times, oh, your graduates are coming out with unemployable. This comes from Narayan Murthy's or whoever. Maybe so. It's an expanded system, quality may not be what it is, but university is not supposed to skill you in that sense. Skills you get regardless, and you will get on the job anyway. But university education is to answer through scholarship, through debates, and through leadership. University job is to produce leaders. Leaders in academia, leaders in industry, leaders in any sense of the word. Very important is the university space or higher education is not about numbers, not about CGPA, it's not about ranking. It's also about how do you get your moral value, where do you pick your ethical value, where do you learn to behave. I think it's crucially important that in the current narrative probably it's missing. And current crisis, I'm not talking about crisis in India, crisis everywhere in the world, whether it is Syrian war or it is Middle East or it is left wing, right wing, middle wing, whatever, is not just science and technology. It's not only economics. Whole lot of it is cultural. So very quickly, this data you've seen, so I'm not going to spend any time. I'm going to finish it here. Indian system, as I said, the second largest in the world. US used to be the number one. China is the largest, and we are the second largest. In this, so this data you've already seen. I just wanted to share. I'm not going to belabor. Very large number of students from 52. A very large number of university from 22,800. 400 to 40,000 colleges. It's a huge spectrum, and I think we should be proud of it. We should be absolutely proud of having achieved what governments over the years have achieved. I just wanted to highlight this, my last two slides. If you see the expansion of higher education from 2000 to 2015, this is a remarkable phase. And I, for one, do not panic when we say this doesn't function, that doesn't function, ranking is not working, we are not, so what? But look at the expansion. Look at the number of people getting into higher education. both from teaching, learning, researching, and people who are getting education. So I think. So challenges in higher education, access, this is Indian scene, access, equity with excellence, remains a continued challenge, will remain a continued challenge and should remain a continued challenge. The gap between access, those who want to get into university education and are not able to get, is very, very large. Our GER is still hovering around 20. We wish to, by 2020, to become 30, which is equal to Brazil or equal to South Africa. Should that happen, our system has to expand 33% more. So that's a food for thought. The huge gap, the quality of higher education, international ranking, I for one at this given time won't worry too much about it. We need to consolidate what we've expanded. I think we must get into a huge consolidation phase right now, but that's my personal opinion. Balance in research and teaching is a word over a problem. Because of these rankings, Times ranking, QS ranking, all universities, so a very fancy professor at Stanford or at Oxford or Cambridge actually doesn't want to teach because his job is to get very high quality papers. So I think we have to, all universities have to find, certainly in India, but a balance has to be found. So the last slide is, so when I went as the 7th Pay Review Commission, we went all over the country. When we discussed this with Vice Chancellor and principals, trade union and so on, I can promise you we did not go beyond salary structure problem and the promotion problem. We had whole days meeting. So clearly the stakeholders are still very much looking at the system which is still not stabilized. We have a lot of regulatory mechanism. Professor Sirohi showed you. We have, to my mind, we have far too many regulatory mechanisms. NAC, you heard enough. So use of information and communication technology is something which may, in a very big manner, change the way we do education today. Whether that will be for good or bad, I think we'll count that one day, but there's no running away from this. I don't know how many of you know this, the MHRD has on its own portal called SWEM, has now erected more than 500 MOOCs courses. MOOCs courses started in 2011 are free of cost. Those of students who are sitting here, anybody who wants to get any kind of knowledge, it is at a click of a mouse. But MOOC course is very disciplined, you have to be organized to take it, but amount of knowledge, good quality, very high quality knowledge available for free, and I insist that absolutely free of cost is enormous. You can do a course in biostatistics, you can do a course on immunology, you can do a course on skill training or whatever. So I think I'll stop here. I think maybe if you have, the time was a little bit short. What I wanted to just say that in India especially, we are expanding from 5 IITs, we have 18 IITs. We have new institution called ICERs. So government, it's not that the government is not spending money, but what needs to be spent, it is I think 1/3 of what needs to be spent. Lot of people have suggested to government many times over that 6% of GDP must be spent on education. And if we take 2% of that in higher education, I think that is when we should start talking about quality. But very quickly, a last comment, but at the same time, money is not everything. I don't think just throwing money will produce high quality. I think we need amazing quality of leadership, discipline, self-governance by the teaching community, and huge discipline from a student. So I thank you for this.
Chairman Saab, in the NAC is there an allotment for the research in science education? Is there any fund for research in science education? The topic here is science education research. So you have all talked about science research. The first man defined what is education and what is science. He did not define what is science education research. You are given about the research in the institutions outside the university and the funds given to the universities for doing research. Now I drive the entire gathering here to the core point that what is the encouragement from various central governments or state government institutes to fund for the research in science education. There are science education and research institutes recently came up, one in Tirupati, one in Thiruvananthapuram, etc. This is the point where we have to concentrate. Science education research means educating the science, doing the research in educating the science. Educating science is a skill manner.
Yeah.
They are using the foreign books and Indian books, but where is the development of educating the science?
Do you have a question to ask?
Yes. I have
What is your question?
My question is there any fund in the NAC to encourage, there is a one item here shown, innovations and encouragement. Is there any fund in NAC to encourage research in science education, a concept or several concepts, or all the existing concepts, they are to be improved. Research is to improve the method of teaching.
So are you making a statement or are you asking a question?
I am asking a question, are you having any fund for encouraging that?
So you can stop that after asking the question. If you stop, somebody can answer.
Oh, thank you, sir. I want that.
Yeah. So as I said, government has expanded science education. What you said, Tirupati and Trivandrum, actually ICERs, which is for science education and research, opened first in Pune, second in Mohali, then in Calcutta, and now there are 7 and many more states. So this is not just science education. Education is education. So when you do chemistry, physics, biology, mathematics, you begin to call it as a sectorial science education. So if you're asking, is there any funding being given by government? Answer is a very big yes, all in capitals. But the need that the need for the country is far more than what we are able to spend right now. I said it many times, education, science education, research is an expanding process. It's not the right time to either criticize or to analyze. I think we'll take another 10, 15 years of stay. I said that we need consolidation of what we started. But the gap is so much, the expansion will be. But to very short answer to your question is, yes, government is spending a lot of money.
I am Professor B.V.R. Chaudhary from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. I would like to agree with you that it is true that none of the Indian universities are in the top 100 or 200 or so. But at the same time, there is no global university without Indians. Name any top university, we have Indians, and they are doing exceedingly well. But my question is how the Indian education system, particularly higher education system, is availing these Indians who are living abroad, who are willing to really come back to in support of Indian higher education system. What kind of measures are you taking? Thank you.
So I think there is a great awareness of this, but let me just very quickly settle this question. The large number of people wanted to come back to India to, give back to India as it were. So a lot of us in 60s onwards went to US, mostly US, but now to Germany or Holland and so on. A large number to England. Nehru went, Gandhiji went, and everybody went abroad and came back, produced leadership. But the recent economic pressure, especially post one in 1998 and one in 2007, is squeezing the job market in Europe in a very, very big way. Europe is in a decline right now. US is not doing very well, and you've seen the results of the recent president election in US. So from where I see, and we see very large number of applications, for example, in my own institute, for one position we get 400 applications, large number. So this is, drift back is not because people are, suddenly realize that they're Indian and they want to give back. I think it's a job situation becoming very tight. Is government aware of it that people want to come back? Do we have conditions in our universities? that very good quality person can come and start research. And to be very blunt with you, the infrastructure for science research, even in some of the best institutions in India, is very ordinary. And I think government knows, and no one knows this more than present Prime Minister. This Prime Minister has actually said in a meeting that the money we spend on research cannot produce what we think should be produced in this country. So I think there's a lot of awareness. Whether we are prepared, private universities are hiring very good quality people who are coming back. 60% of all our education is in private sector. So I said what I was saying. I think we are in a moving target right now. We will see 10 to 15 years from now what will happen. But finally, science research is very expensive. For example, India still does not have a synchrotron, which is, every small, South Korea has one, China has two, Japan has one, and so this is a high quality equipment. By that, and the science is driven now today, science is driven by technology so much that earlier when you had a good thought, good idea, you could be Raman, that today if you want to do experiments on quantum physics or high energy physics, really you cannot do them here. So what is government doing? Government has started, they have asked for 1,000 positions, separate 1,000 positions, attracting people. These people can spend 2 years, 3 years in NITs or universities. There are a large number of Prime Minister scholarships began, which is only about last year. So I think government, the Wellcome Trust is funding very large number of young scientists. So from where we see, I mean, we are in some of the committees, large number of things are happening. But research, good quality research, patience is required. I think we need to build many, many more structures. ICERS is an example. They are only 7 years old. But by the time you mature in science, it takes about 10 to 15 years before we start showing that we are as good as anybody. Sorry for the long answer, but short answer is government is aware of it, that amount of money we spend on research is too little to be then say where is the quality.
We will take up subsequent questions later, okay, because paucity of time. We are highly grateful to Director NAC, Professor D.P. Singh, Professor Rajpal Sirohi, and Professor Virendra Chauhan. Let's give a big applause thanking. It's a rare opportunity to bring such people onto a common platform, and also for the first time in the Indian Science Congress, we have requested Professor D.P. Singh. He has kindly agreed to convene this session. As a token of our appreciation, I request the Vice Chancellor of SU University, Professor Damodaran Garu, to present mementos to our distinguished speakers.
Thank you. May I request now our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Avula Damodaram Garu, to felicitate Professor D.P. Singh, convener of this session. Now I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to felicitate Dr. Virendra S. Chauhan. Now I request our Vice Chancellor to felicitate Professor Rajpal S. Sirohi.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll conclude this session.
With this,